because he was experiencing treatment-resistant depression for most of his life. He had tried things like ketamine therapy. We didn't talk about ketamine, but it's being lumped into this world of psychedelic therapy, and it's not really a psychedelic, but it can be helpful. So anyway, for this individual, he had tried it. He didn't feel like it helped him, but other people in his life said he was kinder and easier after it. So he kept doing it, even though he didn't like the experiences. So he came to the retreat with like a pretty heavy emotional burden of wanting to work through some of this depression feeling. And in his second journey of the retreat, his high dose journey, he shared that he had the experience in his mind, like with the eye mask, of almost like looking around the corner and seeing all this scary darkness, trauma stuff. And he decided not to face it. He was like, he's just like, I'm not ready for that. But through that process in his journey, he found this peace in the fact that it's actually okay. He doesn't have to face it now, and he can always come back to it. And like he had the realization, the words he used is that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And he doesn't have to be comparing himself all the time to other people who maybe are, in his eyes, like better off or, doing more work sooner. And for him, that was a huge sense of peace that he could just be on his own pace, on his own journey, on his own time. And so it wasn't like, what I love about this story is it wasn't the big theatrical psychedelic journey that a lot of people read about in the media and in Michael Pollan's book. But the insight that he took away from it was just as profound,
Mm.
like that sense. And he said in this video testimonial and on my website and written testimonial that it was the retreat was the 5 most meaningful days of his life. And I don't really care like how big your visionary experience is or not. Like that's a powerful thing, to say. And so grateful to be a part of helping to create that for him. I would never take credit for that. Like he showed up and he did the work and he prepared and, but yeah, that's one I really like because there is a tendency when I receive clients that because the media is so sensationalizing psychedelic journeys that, and like Michael Pollan's book, people are like, I want to come and I want an ego death experience, but it's not like a menu of things that you choose from. And so, so
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
One of the team here, his name's, and it's okay for me to share because he shared. His name's Stephen Kerwin. He's essentially a body worker, but he's also a healer. He's
Mm,
he's outside of the box of what we would generally we I don't know if you say we pride ourselves, but we are science based slash influenced. Of course,
yeah,
we have the confidence to do things that haven't been tested by
right.
science because we're doing it every day, and maybe in some areas we might be a little bit ahead of the science, or you can't
Uh-huh.
test everything. But anyway, Stephen, mate, he did the podcast. Has Hands Will Travel. Had an amazing life. Anyway, he did what's the one where you get the tattoo on the shoulder? Is it Tabo?
Oh,
Um,
combo.
Combo. Thank you. He
Yeah.
did Combo, and he had a purging experience. And I was just curious and asked him about it. And he said exactly that. He said, I died. What was it? I died an ego death, or I saw myself die and I was rebirthed. And
Yeah.
he had a profound experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite
Yeah.
aggressive. He said it was quite purging. But it's funny that
Yeah.
you say that because it's one of those things that die an ego death. He literally, from that
Yeah.
experience, he had that. Do you mind though to move forward for coming towards the end of this? It's been an amazing conversation, but can we flip the coin?
Yeah.
You share an experience that you thought, whoa, that was pretty heavy, and I need to acknowledge that the substances that I'm using require ownership and require me being the person I need to be for the people that come into let's say Confluence, the circle that you've created.
Yeah.
I need to be on top of my game because this experience, that if it's okay for you to share one, this
Mm-hmm.
experience was really challenging, and that could have went either way. Because I'm assuming it
Yeah.
does happen, doesn't it, Miles?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to quantify exactly. And even like in the nature of these experiences, there's no way to know in advance what someone's gonna
Mm.
have. And, and one thing that I was gonna share on your last comment, but I think applies to this too, is like there is this tendency, particularly in our modern society, for us to really feel like for it to be valuable or worthwhile, it has to be really challenging or hard and has to require hard work. And that's not necessarily true. It's like a construct of whatever society we live in. Like you could have easy experiences that are also very powerful and healing, but in the world of journeys that maybe don't go as smoothly or as pleasantly or as, um, nicely as people would like there are lots of scenarios and cases. I actually been fortunate so far under Confluence not to have this yet, but we're still pretty new and small in the scheme of things. My last company, Synthesis, had some of these, just clients who can't really let go and surrender into the experience is one category, and they find themselves wrestling with the experience. Like the experience wants to show them something, and they are resisting it. And there's like this psychological time. Like a lot of people will describe really negative thought loops that happen in journeys, and the best we understand it through the science is that this is typically when someone is resisting what's being shown to them and not letting go into the experience. Another also possible outcome is that some people have really deeply suppressed traumas that they're not even aware of. And there is a possibility that in these experiences, they can be relived and people can be questioning, was that even a real thing that, could be experiencing something like a physical abuse as a child? And people sometimes can question if that was real or not. And, there's a whole range of things that can come out of that. And so, yeah, I think it's like for our job as organizers and facilitators, it's about creating as much as we can, creating a sense of safety and a structure for people to have whatever experience that unfolds. And, I feel pretty comfortable saying 8 out of 10 of them are going to be, even if they have tough moments in the journey, they'll be okay. 1 out of 10 or maybe 2 out of 10 will have more challenging experiences where they'll need more support after. And that's where it's really important to have the integrity as a facilitator to like roll up your sleeves and not be like, well, you didn't pay for that extra session, so good luck. Like you
Yeah.
really, it's so much deeper than like other types of work, and it can bring up so much more that there are clients where you find yourself like really following up and trying to make connections to therapists or and then like a microcosm level. I don't want to like create too much fear for everyone, but just being full honesty, like
Hmm.
a very, 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 very slim amount of people can have um, what's called like spiritual emergency. Like they can feel so shaken and not know who they are afterwards. And there are, at an extreme side of that spectrum, there are modern psychiatric medications that people take. They tend to be very numbing and but for some people they need it after like a very jarring experience. And in a less severe case, like there are spiritual healers that people go to and they work more on like yeah, like really working on what came up and how to reshift it and shape it. And so and I like to share on those notes that like it's very much a cultural thing for us to look at that. Like, a lot of Western psychologists or would call it like psychosis or psychotic break. But in other traditions around the world, like these were rites of passages for becoming healers and becoming shamans, was like really losing your mind and putting it back together. And so
Hmm.
ultimately, like what it all means fundamentally is like you want to be with someone who you feel safe with, who has this experience. Like one of my colleagues at my last company, Don Kyman, was one of our most experienced facilitators. And he used to say, anyone can hold space for a pleasant psychedelic journey. That's the easy part. People just stay in their eye mask and they're navigating, enjoying. And like the harder work is like when these, smaller chance, tough experiences come up. And you just want to make sure you're with someone who at least can hold it with you and then help you get the support you need after. So yeah. But I'll say even with those like kind of like quote psychotic breaks, like people eventually come back. I'm not aware of any instance where people just lose their mind and never come back. But in the worst case scenarios, it might take 6 months, a year for someone to feel regular again. But often they come back with like, yeah, a lot of growth and a lot of perspective. And so, yeah, it's maybe a jarring note to end on, but there are risks.
No,
Like
that's not
you
it
want to
yet.
be
Because
intentional about it.
thank you for sharing. But it's nice to know the whole subject that we're sharing. And
Yeah.
my experience so far has largely been positive. And then I felt that you sharing that was like you mentioned integrity. I think that was an integral part of this conversation. So thank you.